Hi, I'm Sandy Hirschline, welcoming you to another Siemens How to Drive video with the goal of helping you better understand and work with Siemens variable frequency drives and related motion products. Let's continue with the popular book-size format of the SINAMICS S120 high-performance and servo drive system. Product Marketing Manager Craig Nelson is going to demonstrate how to change out the older style SINAMICS S120 book-size motor module for the new C&D types.
Craig Nelson here. For our example SINAMICS S120 motor module upgrade, we have a running S120 system on a 4-axis converting machine. For SINAMICS S120 book size format, we now use the new C&D type motor modules. If you need to replace one of the traditional modules with the new type, I'm going to show you just how easy it is. First, we want to make sure we are powered down, of course. Log out, tag out procedure should always be followed, and this work should be performed by a qualified electrician. As indicated on the motor module cover, you should always wait at least 5 minutes to make sure the DC link discharges, along with other standard safety precautions. While we're waiting, I want to show you some of the innovations of the new C&D type motor modules. First, we added even more robustness into the units, internally with separation between the power section and the electronics, and externally with a thicker backplate. Second, they have a more user-friendly motor cable connection that's easier to use and saves cabinet space. Most importantly, there's downward compatibility for replacing the older types, as we will show today. The newer C&D type 3 to 30 amp motor modules can be easily identified by the shield clamp for the motor cable. The designation C or D stands for the overload rating of the unit. The C stands for continuous applications such as converting and have a 200% overload, whereas the D stands for discontinuous applications with a 300% overload, more typical for motion control profiles. On the 18 and 30 amp motor modules, they are available in both C and D types, so it's important to verify which one has the same power stack code for downward compatibility on a replacement. You can always find out more about the new C&D type motor modules by visiting usa.siemens.com/SINAMICS S120. Now that we have verified the system is safe to work on by measuring the DC bus, we need to loosen the DC bus jumpers and remove the 24-volt DC jumpers. Next, it's always a good idea to document or photograph your drive click connections to make sure you don't change the topology on replacement. If you have anything wired to the X21 or X22 connector, take the connectors off and label them as well. If you can get to the motor cables, remove them now. On the older cable type, there were different versions of this connector, and this was an older one, so I needed to unscrew it. Early on, you had to loosen the torque screw from below, and it might have been hard to get to. Later, a more user-friendly release for the connector was added. The new connector type is an improvement over the older styles. It's easier to use, more cost-effective, and a better use of space. This particular unit we're replacing is a double-axis motor module, so there are 2 motor cables. If you also have a 2-axis unit, label the front number 1 and the back connector number 2 so we can get them back on the correct axes. With all the connections off the motor module, we can loosen up the top and bottom mounting screws holding the module in place. The unit can now be removed from the panel by pushing up and then out. In most cases, you can use the existing screws to mount the new motor module as I did. Remount the 24-volt jumpers and any top connectors, making sure they go back in the same spot. Reconnect the DC bus jumpers at the listed torque values in the manual. And set any push-outs or side covers to the same configuration as the original motor module. The next thing we have to do is connect the motor to the new CD type motor module. You could replace the whole cable, but this may not be practical, so there are 2 other options. The first is to use the cable adapter that comes in a 2-meter length. The second, which is the most popular, is to just take off the old connector and assemble a new one. To use this option, you'll need to make sure you have a couple inches of extra cable. The motors used here do not have a brake, so I didn't have to wire any brake wires. But before I cut or disconnect any of the motor wires, I want to make sure I label them U, V, and W. U phase is always towards the front. It's important we don't get them mixed up. Here I've wired the two motor cable connectors and ready to connect them to the new D-type motor module. The new connector and side-by-side connection make this very easy. Finally, check to make sure the grounding is connected and everything is tight and in the right place, and we're ready to power up. I'm not sure what firmware version is in this system, but it doesn't matter. The new motor module will run on the firmware functionality in the control unit, because the firmware is stored on the compact flash and it's now being loaded into the new motor module. So this means that we're not going to have to do any parameterization. You can see as the firmware is being loaded, it will have a slow blinking, and as soon as it's completely loaded in, that'll change to a fast blinking. We'll power reset it, and then everything should come back green. Okay, we have the fast blinking, and now we'll do one more power reset. Now that we're powered back up, we need to acknowledge any faults, and we're ready for the run command. It's that easy.
Thanks, Craig. For more information on SINAMICS S120 drives, please visit usa.siemens.com/SINAMICS-S120. Thank you for watching, and please drive carefully.
Siemens, ingenuity for life.